ॐ
कृष्ण प्रिय।
अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
So
प्रिय।
welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So till now we have made like a big progress. We have completed to two sections of Bhagavad Gita. So two-thirds of the Bhagavad Gita we have gone through. So first 12 chapters. So today we are going to start on chapter 13, which is named as Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. And in Sanskrit, this chapter is called Kshetra Kshetra Vibhaga Yoga. And this chapter has 35 verses. We'll try to complete this, we'll try to cover the overview of this chapter in possibly 3 sessions. Let us see how it goes. So from this chapter onwards, the Jnana Yoga section or the Jnana section of Bhagavad Gita starts. So as we have covered before, we have talked about this before, that the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita talks about Karma Yoga, basically. But it is not only focused on Karma Yoga. It explains how to achieve bhakti through work. So the focus is still on bhakti, but it actually uses the karma as a medium. Then the middle 6 chapters, chapter 7 to 12, is focused directly on bhakti yoga. And it explains the glories of the Lord and the process of bhakti. And the last 6 chapters, from 13 to 18, is predominantly at a high level. If you see, it is quite a lot of analytical study of everything is given here. So that is like a jnana section. And this section talks about how to achieve bhakti through knowledge. So entire Bhagavad Gita is actually focusing on bhakti yoga. And we have talked about this before as well. It actually not even focusing on bhakti yoga. It talks about ananya bhakti. So the Bhagavad Gita's recommendation is doing ananya bhakti to Lord Krishna. And in the beginning 6 chapter, it focuses on how to use work to get bhakti. In the middle 6 chapter, it talks about actual the directly it talks about glories of Lord and bhakti. And in the last 6 chapter, it talks about how to achieve bhakti through knowledge. So in the first 6 chapters, it gives a foundational knowledge of soul. And then in the middle 6 chapter, it by giving the knowledge about the Lord, knowledge about how to achieve the love for Krishna, it actually try to develop the attachment to Krishna. Whereas in the last 6 chapters, it giving the analytical knowledge of matter and Maya, it tries to create detachment from Maya or detachment from matter. So this is how the Bhagavad Gita is organized. And why the Bhakti Yoga section comes in the middle, we have discussed that before as well. It is like it is the real jewel is kept inside the box. So there is a cover at the bottom and a cover on top. So this is how it is. But also there is the Acharyas mention another interesting aspect. They say that the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in itself are not very useful. Only when it comes in contact with bhakti, it has some use. It has some usefulness. So if bhakti was not in the middle, then it cannot be connected to karma and jnana both. So by being in the middle, it is adding value to both karma and jnana because it is in touch with both. It's quite interesting analysis. But in logically as well, if we just have knowledge of soul or detachment from matter, but there is no attachment to Krishna, then it is like all zeros. and there is no one along with that. So it is of hardly any use. So this is why we need to actually have all of this. We have to have the foundational knowledge of soul. We have to have attachment to Krishna and then detachment from Maya. And in our Bhakti Yoga process that we follow, which Srila Prabhupada has very nicely practically given, where we chant at least minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and also try to follow the four regulative principles. So by following the four relative principles, we are trying to get detachment from matter. And by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, minimum 16 rounds every day, we are trying to develop that attachment to Krishna. So all of this is still there. And the foundational knowledge is given by Srila Prabhupada books and through by Guru and Sadhu and Shastra. So all of that is available in ISKCON. So all this entire process Srila Prabhupada has given us practically. Now we are talking about attachment to Krishna and detachment from Maya. So let us look at why that is important, or both of them. So suppose we are detached from Krishna, but attached to Maya. Then who are we if we are detached from Krishna and we are attached to Maya?
Materialistic.
Yes, very materialist. So these are like we are describing a person who is a materialist. So if we are detached from Krishna and detached from Maya as well, then who are we?
Ashtang yogi, that's like trying to get away from
Yeah, you're
everything.
close. You're close. So it is an impersonalist. So he's detached from matter, but he's also detaching himself from the Bhagwan, and he's focusing on the impersonal aspect. So that is why he becomes an impersonalist. What about we are attached to Krishna but attached to Maya as well? Who's that?
Is it Karma Yogi?
No,
We might
Devotee?
a devotee. No. Yeah,
Karam
we can
Kant
we can
Prabhuji.
actually in a way we can say that the practicing yogi or practicing devotee could be put into this section. Like he's trying to attach to Krishna, but he's also attached to Maya. But I'm not referring to that part. Here I'm
Karam Kant
referring.
Prabhuji,
Sorry?
where like Karam Kant Prabhuji, where like we are worshiping Krishna just to get Maya
No,
or
no.
material desire.
No, because in Karma Kanda, the focus is not on Krishna. Generally, the worship is done of devatas. But here, this one,
Personalist.
no. So here,
Sachi.
actually, it is referring to Sahajiyas. Sahajiyas are people who are attached to Krishna, but they are also attached to Maya. And their view is they haven't purified themselves and they are acting as if they are Krishna. So they are actually performing Rasa Leela, and because they are not purified, then they are getting entangled like that. So, so uh, they are thinking that Krishna consciousness is a very easy process that they don't require any purification. They are already at that level, so they can just act as if they are Krishna and do all these other pastimes as well. So that is why that is not a good situation because they will fall down because they are attached to Maya as well. Okay, what about we are attached to Krishna but detached from Maya?
Devotee.
Yeah, so this is where we want to be. So we want to actually develop our attachment for Krishna, but at the same time, we want to actually be detached from matter or Maya. So only when we understand that we are the spirit soul, and we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and we develop some attachment from Krishna, but at the same time, we develop detachment from Maya or matter, then we become a devotee. And this is our goal. So till now, we have understood that we are the spirit soul. We have understood the process of bhakti yoga, so we are trying to develop attachment for Krishna. But if we do not develop detachment from Maya, then we cannot become a proper devotee. That is why these chapters from 13 to 18 are also very important for a devotee. We should not be thinking that now that I understand the foundational knowledge, which is of the spirit soul, and I understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I understand the process of bhakti now, so I'm done. I don't have to really focus on this last 6 chapters. It is anyway about jnana, some analytical, very difficult knowledge. I don't want to actually get involved in it. No. So if that was the case, Krishna wouldn't have spent so much time talking about this knowledge on the battlefield where no one has time. They are all ready to fight. So because it was important, that is why Lord Shri Krishna has spoken about these last 6 chapters as well. And that is why we have to still, even if it sometimes it becomes difficult to understand, we still have to focus and still try to understand the knowledge which is given. And using this knowledge, we should try to detach ourselves from matter or Maya. Okay, so this is the connection of between what is happening. So the first 6 chapters, we have seen the karma section, then bhakti section, and then the jnana section is starting. And it is actually in continuity. Everything is talking about bhakti. But now Arjuna is actually changing the gear and he wants to actually ask further questions about this details about the body, soul, who's the enjoyer, all of that. So that is what he asks, a complicated question. In one verse, he asks 6 questions. So let us focus and let us see what Arjuna is asking at the beginning of chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetra Vibhaga Yoga. So there are 2 verses together. Arjuna Uvacha Prakrutim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnameva Cha Etadveditumicchami Jnanam Neyam Cha Keshava Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhi Dhiyate Etadyo Vetim Tam Prahu Kshetrajna Iti Tadvidaha. Who wants to read?
Prabhu,
Yes,
can I
Mahendra
read?
Prabhuji. And Asoka Mataji, you can do the next one. And
Thank
then
you.
Vidushi Mataji, you can do the third one. Okay. Mahendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Arjuna said, O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So here, Arjuna is asking 6 questions in the first verse. And he's asking, Oh Krishna, please tell me about Prakriti. So it is material nature. Purusha, who's the enjoyer of this Prakriti. Kshetra, so field. Kshetrajna, who's the knower of the field, and Jnana, the knowledge and the process of acquiring this knowledge, and Neyam, the object of knowledge. Please tell me all these 6 things. And Lord Shri Krishna doesn't waste any time. Immediately in the first, like the verse after this question, he focuses on answering the third and fourth question, Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So what does he say? The Lord is saying that this body is a kshetra. It is the field of activity. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field or kshetrajna, which is he's referring to the soul. So just like in the second chapter, Lord, when he was explaining the difference between the body and soul, he differentiated between deha and dehi. Deha means body and dehi means the person who is residing within the body. So this body and the soul, Atma, was differentiated. So here as well, Krishna is differentiating between Kshetra, which is the field of activity, and Kshetrajna, who's the knower of the field of activity. Let's try to understand this by a simple example. Like suppose that there is a farmer and he has one field. So there is a difference, and he's actually staying in that field. So he has built one small house, and in that field itself, he is staying. But of course, there is a difference between the field in which he is working, he is doing some activities, and himself, isn't it? The field and farmer are different. And depending on how much activity he does in that field, he will get the result accordingly. Suppose he is a very lazy person in gardening like me, then his gardens will only have weeds, isn't it? But if he is very, very hardworking, then he may have a very wonderful crop and he will get good results. And using that crop, he can become rich. And over a period of time, he can accumulate money and even buy a bigger field. And with that bigger field that he has now, then he can even earn more. And then that is how he can grow. So this is a possibility, right? So the farmer working in the field. So similarly, this body is the field of activity for the soul. And the result that we can get is based on the soul, how the soul is using this body. So depending on how it uses this body, he can actually make progress or it can regress. So if he does good activities, then over a period of time, it will get a better body to enjoy, the better body to make progress towards the spiritual life. So this is possible. Just like the farmer, if he actually worked hard in the field, he made progress. He actually bought a bigger field and he became rich. Similarly, the person who's inside the body, the Atma, if he utilizes the body properly for doing the activities, then he can also achieve better bodies. And if he becomes completely pure, then he can even make progress and go to the spiritual world. So this is exactly what Krishna is trying to mention. There is a difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So Kshetrajna is the person who's staying within, is the knower of that field, and he is using the Kshetra, the body, to do various activities. Is that clear? The difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna? Okay. So in this, so how this body is given? So according to the capacity to enjoy the sense gratification. So this is based on the previous karma. So for example, we were talking about this farmer, depending on how he has worked before and how much money that he has acquired, he can buy a field. So according to his capacity, he could get the field. Similarly, depending on what kind of activities that we have done in the past, we are getting the field or this body now. And we can then have a particular capacity to enjoy sense gratification. So I think Srila Prabhupada gives the examples, lots of examples in these purports. So for example, if we have a child and child is within a backyard and the backyard is completely fenced. And within that fence, the child can jump, child can run, child can have lots of toys which are there. He may have a swing, he may have like a seesaw or whatever other things that he has, and he's playing within it. But irrespective of how much things which are there for his enjoyment inside the backyard, he's still limited by the backyard that is there. So his sense gratification is still limited. But like if there is a very, very rich person and his child will have still a bigger backyard, like a bigger place, but still it will be fenced. So that child as well will have still some limitations, or there is a capacity that is given for its sense enjoyment. So similarly, depending on what kind of activities that we have done in the past life, we will be given a body to enjoy sense gratification. So if we become an earthworm, then we will just crawl a little bit and we will be just spending like we can crawl probably a meter or 2 meters, but that is our field. But whereas if you are a human being, then we can take a flight, we can go from one country to another, we can roam around the world. So all of these things we can do. If we are a dog, we can jump, we can run, whatever, but we can't read still the scriptures. So we still do not have enough capacity to make spiritual progress. But if you are a human being, and that also in an advanced society, and advanced means not materially advanced, but spiritually advanced, and somehow or the other we come in contact with devotees, then we have the opportunity to make progress towards Krishna. But that facility is very rarely available to animals. They can still, by the mercy of pure devotees, they can still make progress, but it is still very hard. So this is how we understand that how the kshetra is given to the kshetrajna. And then depending on how it uses the kshetra or this body, then the next life kshetra will be different. We can regress to animal life or we can progress to even advanced body. And if we have taken the path of bhakti yoga seriously and sincerely, then we will get our spiritual body back. So this is how Kshetra and Kshetranya has been explained. Now the third text explains another Kshetrajna. So it is not only the soul who knows the body, but there is also the super soul who knows the body. So the Lord explains this Kshetrajna in the third verse. Let us go and read that. क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
As citizen of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
thank you, Mataji. So in this verse, the Lord is talking about another knower, and at the same time, he is explaining about the knowledge. So one of the question that Arjuna asked, that explain me the jnanam, the knowledge. So Lord is already starting to give a hint, a brief definition of that, and then he explains that further in 8 to 12 verses again. So the second Kshetrajna first. What he says is Kshetrajnam chapima midi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So sarva kshetra. So there is this soul, Atma, is aware of only one kshetra. This body only it is aware of. But there is another kshetrajna which is aware of all the bodies. And that is the super soul. He is the knower of all fields. And he is different from the Atma. And then the second part of this verse mentions that to understand the body and its knowers, which is the soul and super soul, that is knowledge. So we may go to schools and colleges and get a lot of material knowledge, but it is still limited to only body, the knowledge of body, because it is the knowledge of matter, right? But the schools and colleges are not giving any knowledge about the soul and super soul. In fact, the understanding of the body is also not complete. Our understanding of the matter that the scriptures give us, sorry, the material education gives us is still not complete. And that is why the Lord is now going to explain this knowledge of the body as well in the next few verses. So there are two nodes of the field. One is the soul and the other one is the super soul. And there is a difference between these two knowers. What is the difference? The soul is an individual knower, whereas the super soul is the super knower. It knows every bodies, all the bodies, everything, including all the small atoms. Everything is known by this super soul. The soul is the proprietor of only one body, but the super soul is the proprietor of all bodies. And Srila Prabhupada gives an example that just like a farmer may be owning one particular farm, but the king owns the entire kingdom. And within that kingdom, the farmer is actually owning that farm. But if the king wants, he will take that farm back from the farmer. So that is why he is the proprietor of the entire kingdom. So super soul is the proprietor of all bodies, but the soul is proprietor of only one body. Soul is the secondary controller, and super soul is the supreme controller. Just like that king example that we were talking about. Even though the farmer has some control over that farm, but if the king wants, the king can take that control back and do whatever with that farm if he wants. The soul is fallible, but the super soul is infallible. It is fixed up. It doesn't fall down. Even when the Lord comes to the material world, it is not a falling, he's not falling down. He is he's descending on his own desire so that he can actually help all of us to go back. The soul is subordinate and the super soul is superior to the soul. So all of these points are given in the purport that Srila Prabhupada has very wonderfully written. And I'm hoping that you all are also reading the purports. We are very briefly discussing these verses, but I'm hoping that all of you are not only hearing these sessions, but along with that, you are also trying to understand this verse in detail by going through the purports of Srila Prabhupada. So please take that seriously and read the purports as well when you get time. Ideally, if you can come into the session by after reading the verses and purport, verses, translation and purport, you will understand this better. So, because you would have already read, you have received some understanding, and then you are listening to it. And you can do the other way around as well, if you want. After hearing, then you can actually go and read the purports and try to get more understanding of what you have heard from here. Okay. So first practical lesson that we can get here. Actually, there are many points we discussed already, but one important point that I want to highlight here is that the real knowledge is knowing the kshetra and its two knowers. It is not the PhD or the master's degree or bachelor's degree of engineering that we may get. That is the real knowledge. The real knowledge is knowing the body and its two knowers. And basically, the knowledge should be able to uplift the kshetrajna from the kshetra. So, the whole purpose of the real knowledge is that we should actually transcend, we should get out of this body and get into our spiritual form. So, that is what is required. And that is, if the knowledge is able to do that, then it is the real knowledge. Otherwise, it is just some useless knowledge. Okay, let us move on to verse number 4. Takshetram yaccha yadrukcha yadvikari yatascha sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena meshrunu.
Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, when it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. There were few hands raised. They were for questions or for reading?
Prabhuji, reading.
Reading?
only, Prabhuji.
Okay. So I think the next two verses you both can read, Vibhor Prabhuji and then Margi Mataji. Okay. So this verse is now Krishna starting to explain the field, the kshetra. So this verse is giving a brief understanding or like a index page of what we should know about kshetra. So what all we should know about kshetra? These few things. How is the body constituted? Like what is the constitution of the body? How it is made? What are the elements by which the body is made? Then what changes the body undergoes? How, when, and where the body is produced? Identify the knower of the field of activities, the influence, and what is the influence of the knower. So when we know these things, 5 things which are mentioned, then we understand the kshetra properly. And this is why I mentioned earlier that most of our education that we get in schools and colleges is about material education, about the knowledge of the matter, but that knowledge as well is not completely given because not all of these things are covered there. So these questions, so he had just mentioned. Now please hear my brief description. So brief description is there he's going to give, and where he's going to explain that is mentioned in this verses in the bracket. So we will go ahead and read further verses. But before he starts giving the knowledge about Kshetra, he does something interesting. Let us see what he is saying now. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः.
The knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let us read the first few lines. Margi Mataji, you can start reading the purport and I'll ask you to stop after a few lines.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining this most controversial point regarding the duality and non duality of the soul and the supersoul by referring to a scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. First,
Yeah,
he
fine,
says,
Mataji. Yeah, that's enough.
Hare Krishna.
So here, thank you, Mataji. So here what Krishna has done, he is the actually ultimate authority. He is the source of all the knowledge. So he doesn't have to actually give any other reference. Earlier, he has mentioned in verse number 3. So he has said, that is my opinion. So, yatta jnanam matam mama. He said that this is my opinion. So he is giving his own knowledge that he is given. But here, in this fifth verse, he is referring to some other authorities. He is referring to scriptures, which is Vedanta Sutra, and then he is referring to some other sadhus, which is Vyasadev, Parashar, so all these other people who have given this knowledge. So he is actually referring to them. And as Srila Prabhupada mentions, that he is the highest authority. He doesn't have to refer to any other authorities, but he's setting like a example in front of all of us, that whenever we are talking about some spiritual subject matter, we have to actually quote Sadhu and Shastra, Guru Sadhu Shastra. That needs to be referred to. So that is why the our disciplic succession always talks about the three sources of knowledge: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Guru is our spiritual master from whom we have taken Diksha or Shiksha. Sadhu are all other devotees in the Sampradaya, and Shastra is the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all of these are important. These are all three are required. And I have talked about this example earlier, where we talked about like a camera having these lenses, and there are three lenses which are there. And all of these needs to be aligned properly, these lenses. Only when they are aligned and focused properly, then we can see the target. So our aim is to actually see the Supreme Lord and develop love for him. And if these three, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, if they are not aligned properly and not focused properly, then we will not be able to see the Supreme Lord. And why all three are required? So suppose we only have Guru and we do not listen to any other devotees and we do not have any connection with the Sadhu, sorry, any connection with the scriptures. What is the risk that we face there? What can happen if we just listen to Guru, but we don't listen to Sadhu and Shastra?
Prabhu, we can't progress well.
Yeah, but why we will not progress well?
Because we won't have the backing of knowledge and we won't have the association of devotees. Um, so, um, so that'll create a problem.
Yeah, but the Guru has the backing of the Shastra, na? You don't have, but the Guru has backing of the Shastra. So you just listen to Guru.
So we
But you are
become
not listening.
proud.
What did you say, Mataji?
So we may become proud, Prabhuji.
We may
That
become proud. Okay. Surananda Prabhu,
Faith will not develop, Prabhuji.
faith will not develop. Vidushi Mataji.
We won't have the enthusiasm to keep going in the path of bhakti. And if we go wrong, there's no one to, I mean, Guru may be with us physically or may have the distance. So they won't be able to correct us. I'm little thinking about Bharat Maharaj's story, Prabhuji, here.
Okay, fine. Amindra Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, it gives authenticity to what Guru is saying,
Okay.
because like from a disciple succession as well, so there is like two mode of communication. One is written and one is verbal. So Guru is the verbal itself is like authority, but then like as a complementary authority, Shastras are also basis of which the Guru is preaching from, not his own preaching. He has to have a basis to preach that on.
Yeah, very good. And Vibhor Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, we read in that section with accepting things favorable for devotional service. In that, Sangha of devotees is actually a part. So for developing devotional service, that's one of the prerequisites.
Okay. No, that's a good point. Mahendra Prabhuji.
Yeah, we will become just the followers or blind followers. Where like,
Yeah, absolutely. You are the last and you have given the right answer. If we only have association of Guru and we are just listening to Guru and we have no background of other sadhus, we are not hearing from any other sadhus on any other scriptures, then how do we know that what knowledge that we are receiving from Guru is authentic or not? And I think Pamindra Prabhuji, you also touched upon that. So thank you. So if we actually just have Guru and no Sadhu Shastra, then we will get cheated for sure. Because we have nothing to understand that whatever the Guru is mentioning to us is of any value or not. We are just blind followers of that person. So we want to avoid that. And unfortunately, we have this situation in India quite often that there are people who will just become overnight gurus and there will be hundreds and thousands of followers that they will have. But no one actually knows that whether this person is talking about what it is he or she is talking about has some spiritual backing or not, or the scriptural backing or not. Okay, so if we do not accept a guru and we only accept sadhu and no shastra, what is the challenge? There is no guru, there is no shastra. We are just listening to various different sadhus. Yes, Pamindra Prabhuji. You are on mute, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, the Guru, as based on your teachings, is like based on like pretty much two things. First is like there are multiple forms of knowledge, but you need to focus on one. Similarly, so you might get distracted in too many things and end up doing nothing in that scenario, because different sadhu might be teaching you his own way from his guru parampara. May not be a guru parampara. He might be self-realized and things. But ultimately, like in order to focus something, you might be trying multiple things, but ultimately the focus has to be in one direction, and that can be only done by guru, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Vidushi Mataji, Uma Mataji, and then Vibhor Prabhuji.
No, you won't have any direction and guidance, so you won't know if you're doing the right or wrong thing. But also, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that the transcendental knowledge is received through disciplinic succession. So you do need to be under a guidance of a guru.
Yeah, and the sadhu doesn't have to be from different paramparas. I'm saying that you do not have a guru in that parampara, but in the same parampara, we have various different sadhus that you are referring to.
We won't have proper correction and guidance and direction.
Yeah, that's right. Vibhor Prabhuji? You're on mute, Prabhuji.
Sorry, Rauji. The interpretation of knowledge and the Vedic scriptures which we are not present would change. So people can our understanding would be basically what we understand out of it, with no relevance if it's actually true or not.
Yeah. No, good. Thank you. I think I'll ask the further question to Raghavendra Prabhuji when I come to that. So if we do not actually have a specific guru and we just listen to various different sadhus without understanding any scriptures, first of all, the same challenge that we have of whether we do not know whether the guru is talking what we talked earlier, that with whatever guru is mentioning is the real knowledge or not. If we do not have the scriptural knowledge ourselves, we haven't read the scriptures. So we will not know whether all these sadhus who are talking about, whether they are giving us the scriptural knowledge or not. So that is the first challenge. The second challenge is that there are so many sadhus, and different devotees will have different inclination and different ways to give the answers. And if we actually go and talk to all these 10 different, 15 different devotees, then what will happen is that if we go with a problem to 15 different devotees and ask the same question to them, they will give 15 different answers. And now it is up to you to choose the answer. And I can tell you for sure that if you have 15 answers, you are going to choose using your own mind. And you are going to choose an answer which you think is right for you. So finally, you are becoming your own guru. And today you are asking a question and then you choose this answer because you think that this is the easiest one. Tomorrow you ask a question to another, again, the 15 devotees, and you choose somebody else's answers because you think that though this is good for you. So there is no one to actually follow properly. You will just randomly follow here, there, and there, and you will never make progress like that. And that is why one devotee you have to accept as a guru who can put you into the right path. He or she will be able to give you the right direction and then give corrections as well when it is required. Now, what about you do not accept guru and sadhu, and you say that Bhagavad Gita is there, Bhagavatam. I have this entire set of Bhagavatam, entire set of Charitamrita. I will just read this Shastra, but I don't require any guru or sadhu. What challenges, what do you think will happen if you do like that? Yes, Margi Mataji.
If we don't have any guru or sadhu and we simply read shastras, we will interpret the verses according to our knowledge. We will not grow.
Very nice. Good. Any other points? Surananda Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, I agree with Mataji. And also we'll get proud.
We will become proud. Okay.
Prabhu, we get the theoretical knowledge only, we don't get the practical knowledge. If we just met the devotees, so we get the lot knowledge proper, but if we just follow Shastra, we can't get the proper knowledge.
Yeah, very good.
Association.
Raghavendra Prabhu, you had your hand up.
I think Mataji covered it, Prabhu. What I meant to say is we'll lose the context and again, we're subject to interpretation as well.
Okay, nice. Okay, Vidushi Mataji, Uma Mataji.
Sanskrit has multiple meanings for each word, so we could get drawn into another word and another meaning could change completely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Gita Jayanti Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So for this particular one, I wanted to say that we may become hard-hearted, and devotional service involves relationships with devotees, and also relationship with Krishna involves relationship with other people around. So if we're just reading the Shastras, probably we won't develop that mood of serving devotees and serving Guru.
Yes, very good. So this point is an elaboration of the earlier point, which was that we will only get the theoretical knowledge and we will not get the practical knowledge. So the practical aspect is if the scriptures are saying that we have to have relationship, loving, reciprocal relationship with the Lord and the devotees, that can only happen when we actually go into the society of devotees and then we try to develop those relationships and then engage in devotional service along with other devotees. So only Shastra will give us theoretical knowledge. There is no proper guidance that will be available because how many of us have the ability to understand Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita? Even if you are super intelligent, there will be some aspect where we will get confused. And we will think that, oh, this purport is also saying the same thing. This verse is also saying the same thing. Why this is repetition? Why this is happening? And this confusion, if we are not able to express to someone else who has understood it properly, then we will not get our doubts clarified. And doubts are like those balloons. We talked about this earlier as well. When it remains, then it becomes bigger and bigger in our mind. And at one particular point, this balloon will burst, and we will say that, oh, this is all irrelevant. It is not making sense at all. So I'll just give it up. So the doubts will destroy our bhakti. So that is why as soon as we have doubts, we require someone to clarify those doubts. And that can happen if we have Guru and Sadhu. And that is why this Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra all are required. And we can actually continue this discussion, but we will move on. For example, we can talk about what if we have only Guru and Sadhu and not Shastra, or Sadhu and Shastra but not Guru, or Guru and Shastra but not Sadhu. So all of these combinations we can talk about, and then we will find out there are challenges in all of these combinations unless we actually go for Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, all three. So I will give you that as a homework. You think about on yourself based on what we have discussed till now, that all these other three combinations where we are taking two together, but not the third factor, what are the problems or challenges that we will face in that situation? But I think we have made it clear that for real knowledge to receive, we require all three: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we have to receive the knowledge from the Guru, and it should align with what the other sadhus are saying and what the scriptures are telling us. So all three are important. Yes, Pamendra Prabhuji.
Ji, what's the clear distinction between Guru and Sadhu?
Yeah, good question, Prabhuji. Guru and Sadhu, the difference is that Sadhu is here referring to all the other devotees from whom we can learn something. So they can be referred to as like Shiksha Gurus. So you may have lots of Shiksha Gurus, but there will be one Diksha Guru. So that Diksha Guru is referred to as Guru, and all the other devotees that from whom we are learning from, they can be referred to as sadhus. Or we can also they don't have to be only Shiksha Gurus. They can be also all the other devotees around us. But basically, uh, any devotee around us, we can learn from them at least something. So the devotees around us are all ours in a way, Shiksha Gurus. They are sadhus, they are devotees of the Lord. But in this case, when we talk about Guru Sadhu Shastra, we can just take it from the perspective. Guru is our Diksha Guru, who also gives Shiksha, of course. And sadhus are all the other devotees from whom we receive Shiksha. And Shastra are the scriptures from where both Guru and Sadhu are referring to and then giving us the knowledge. Okay? Okay, let us move on. We actually spent quite a lot of time on this section, on this verse, but that was important. Okay, let's go to verse number 6 and 7. Mahabhutyana ahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha Indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghataschetana dhritihi etach kshetram samasena savikaram udavritam. Yeah, go ahead, Uma Mataji.
Hare
And then
Krishna.
Ananda Prabhuji, you can do.
The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and the convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So earlier the Lord talked about that what will be, like what is he going to explain about the Kshetra in verse number 4. He said that my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted. So here in this verse, he's talking about the constitution of the Kshetra, and he's also talking about how they are interacting. So all of these factors are mentioned. So what are these 24 factors which are mentioned? So let us see what are those 24 components of the field. So they are of course, the first are the great elements, which are earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then it talks about knowledge acquiring senses. So the nose, tongue, eyes, skin, and ears. Then there are there are object of senses as well. The smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. The five working senses, which are the voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. And then there are this subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, and ego. And then there is a pradhana, which is the unmanifested form of the three modes of material nature. So all of these 24 components together makes the field. So this body that we have is made from these 24 elements. So this is the meaning of understanding the kshetra, understanding the body. And you can notice in all of these 24 factors, there is no factor which is conscious, because the consciousness is coming from the spirit soul and the Supreme Lord, of course. And then this verse also talks about, this 13.7 also talks about the interactions of the field. And what kind of interactions are mentioned? The desire and hatred, happiness and distress, the life symptoms which are there, and the convictions. So these are the interactions. And this is not the entire list of interactions. There are many other interactions, but this is just giving you an idea. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada also talks about the changes, interactions. It also referring to the what are the stages or the changes the body undergoes. So if we go to the last paragraph of that purport of 6 and 7, and who was next to read?
Me, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please read that last paragraph of that purport, Prabhuji.
The body is the representation of all these factors, and there are changes of the body which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts, then it begins to decay, and at the last stage, it vanishes. Therefore, the field is a non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetragna, the knower of the field, is proprietor, is different. Take it.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So the 6 changes are mentioned here of the body, which is the body is born, then it grows, then it stays for some time, it produces some byproducts, it begins to decay, and then at the last it vanishes or dies. So all of these 6 stages which happen in the body. So these are also the changes the body undergoes because of these interactions which are there. Then now the next 5 verses which are coming together, 8 to 12, it is giving us 20 factors or 20 points explaining the process of knowledge. Geeta Jayanti Mataji, your hand is up. You have a question?
Oh no, Prabhuji, I was thinking of reading the
Okay, reading.
link.
Okay, fine.
Hare
All right.
Krishna.
Let us read these 5 verses first, and then you can read the translation. Amanitvam Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa shantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्ग पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् रतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amidst pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge. And besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna. So, Lord Shri Krishna is now talking about more about this knowledge. So earlier he gave just a quick brief description of what is knowledge. So knowledge means the real knowledge. He said, what was the real knowledge?
Understanding your body, Prabhuji.
Is,
And
is that all?
no, and it was Kshetra and its two knowers, knowing soul and super soul as
Right.
well.
Yes. So the real knowledge was to knowing the body and the two knowers of this body, which is the soul and the super soul. But here it is meant, there are these 20 factors which are given, and Krishna says that this is knowledge, and anything else apart from this is ignorance. So actually, this is giving, he's giving the process of knowledge, that how we can, what is this process, or using this process, we can remove the kshetrajna from the entanglement of the kshetra. So if we develop these qualities, the 20 factors which are given, if we develop them within ourselves, then we can come out of the kshetra. We can get liberated from the body. So these are the 20 things that we have to do. But as a devotee, the most important factor in these 20 is the 16th factor, which was given, which was bhaktir avyabhicharini. So that is the most important factor. And if we actually focus on that, slowly all these other factors will also get developed. But we still uh, try to develop humility, try to develop tolerance and everything. So let us very briefly go through these 20 factors. As you can see, there is a long purport that Srila Prabhupada has written, because he is explaining each and every factor which is given here. So I will highly recommend that you should read that. But here we will just briefly, like one line each, we are going to talk about on each of these factors. The first one is humility. And Srila Prabhupada beautifully explains the definition of humility. What he says, humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So every one of us have this desire that we should be honored by someone else. Amanitvam. So man, we require this, we have this desire or interest that someone else should give us respect. And that gives us a lot of satisfaction. But the person who's not anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others is humble. So this is very wonderfully given. So humility means we should not be having this desire that other people are going to give me respect. If they give you respect, you can just accept it and pass it on to your superiors. So pass the hot potato. So that we have to do. But we should not be expecting, we should not be desirous that if I go there, everyone should actually respect me. They should give me man. So we should be amanitvam. Then the next one is adambhitvam. Adambhitvam means, so dambha means you do not have something, but you are showcasing or you are showing false, false, falsely that you have it. So it is basically mithyachara. So we should not be having this dambha. We should be adambha. And Srila Prabhupada actually translates that into pride, pridelessness. So out of your pride, you will actually cheat and you will show to the world that you are something, but you are not. So we should be prideless. Then the third one is non-violence. Non-violence is not putting others in distress. Shantiri, tolerance is we have to actually be practicing to bear insult and dishonor from others. Just like Prahlad Maharaj went through a lot of tolerance. And of course, there will be also a lot of ups and downs in our life, and there will be sometimes the result of our activities may not be immediately received. So we have to tolerate that. We have to have patience, and we can wait for some time. And when the time, real actual time comes, then we will get the result. So we have to tolerate in between. Simplicity means, sorry, Arjavam means simplicity. Simplicity means we have to be very straightforward without any diplomacy. Then Acharyopasanam, which is approaching a bona fide spiritual master. We should approach a spiritual master with a humble attitude, as we talked about in the 4th chapter, that Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. In a very humble mood, we have to ask the questions and do service, and that is how we have to approach a spiritual master. Cleanliness. Now, many of these factors you would see that all of these we have already discussed in the 12th chapter as well, where we talked about how we can become dear to Lord Shri Krishna. And there as well, many factors were given, and we can see that these are coming again here. So cleanliness was also mentioned. So non-violence, tolerance, humility, all of these things that we have seen there. So cleanliness, we saw that externally and internally as well, we have to remain clean. Externally by taking bath and internally by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We have to remain steady to make spiritual progress. We should not be just up and down, up and down. Sometimes we're chanting 16 rounds, sometimes 4, sometimes 2, sometimes 15. No, we have to be just steadily chant our rounds, minimum 16 rounds every day we should chant. Atma Vinigraha, self-control. We reject anything unfavorable for spiritual advancement. Then the next one is renunciation of the object of sense gratification. So we should renounce those object of sense gratification which are distracting us. Of course, we can cater to like there's some demands of the bodies will be there, but we should only cater to those for keeping the body and soul together. Absence of false ego. So anahankara means that we should understand that I am not this body, mind, but I am the spirit soul. I am the servant of the Supreme Lord. Then janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. So we should understand that this birth, old age, death, and disease, they are the 4 problems of our life. Many people don't understand it. They are thinking, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I have everything nicely. There are no difficulties that I'm facing currently. So why these are problems? So understanding that these are the 4 problems of life is also process of knowledge. Then detachment. Detachment means asakti. So it means that we should be ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. Then freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and at the rest. That doesn't mean that we should not have affection for them. Affection is natural if we actually are staying with them, but we should not be developing unnecessary or too much attachment, which will divert us from our duties. Just like Arjuna was getting diverted. He saw all his relatives in front of him, and that is why he got actually distracted from his duty. So we should become freedom. We should become free from this entanglement. Oh, all of these, I just noticed that I'm not even showing the slides. Sorry. Did you see the previous slide? No. Okay. So this was the slide. I was thinking that I'm showing this slide. I'm so sorry. So these are the 12 factors that we talked about earlier that I was talking about. And I was referring to the slide when I was talking about all these factors. These are all, I don't have this by heart, but sorry, I forgot to show it to you. And these are the factors that we are talking about now. So freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest we talked about. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, which is remaining equipoised. And this is the most important factor that we are talking about, bhakti avyabicharini. So constant and unalloyed devotion to Lord Shri Krishna. So our bhakti should not be mixed with anything else. Unalloyed means it is a pure bhakti. It is only to Krishna. We are not actually going to anyone else. Then aspiring to live in a solitary place. So that means we should be actually giving up the non-devotee association and have devotee association, which is also mentioned in the next factor, which is detachment from the general mass of people who will divert us from the spiritual desires. Then the second last point here, 19th factor, is acceptance, the importance of self-realization. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam. So here, most of the people are only focused on the material pursuits, but understanding that the self-realization is important in the human life is also a process of knowledge. Once we understand that, then only we will actually get into all of these. Then philosophical search for the absolute truth. So Athato Brahma Jigyasa will happen when we understand the importance of developing the spiritual knowledge. So these are the 20 factors which are mentioned here. And Krishna is saying that these 20 are the real knowledge and everything else is ignorance. So what we can learn from here is the most important quality that can help the Kshetrajna to come out of Kshetra is Ananya Bhakti. So we should focus on developing Bhakti, which is avyabhicharini, unalloyed devotional service to Lord Krishna. And that will help us to move ahead in our spiritual path very fast. And we can come out of the Kshetra, but not only we will come out of the Kshetra, but we will develop a nice attachment to Krishna and we will get detached from Maya. So I think this is where we will stop for today. 12 verses we have covered, and we will continue on the remaining verses in the next session. So any questions, comments, reflections, or any summary points from today's session that you want to mention? I hope it was not very difficult to understand, though it was very quite technical. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Neyam, Prakriti, Purusha, so many things. We haven't talked about Prakriti and Purusha yet, but we have talked about Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and Jnana. We haven't even talked about Neya. Neya is the object of knowledge, which is Krishna, Lord Krishna himself. But we haven't talked about it yet. Yes, Mahendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, it's a good start to that last section, that first slide. It was really amazing to, understand about those materialistic, impersonalist, Sahaji and devotee differentiation. And along with that, I really liked when we discuss about this Guru Sadhu Shastra. Would be would be lovely to go into details about it as well with you, mainly in our bus conversations whenever I get a chance. But yeah, the main key thing, key learning for me from this particular session is our real knowledge, understanding our body, and it's like those two knowers, like soul and super soul, and also related to the real knowledge, it should be coming from Guru and Sadhu, and Guru, it should align with Sadhu and Shastra both as well.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna,
thank you,
Prabhuji.
George. And that point that we talked about earlier about Maya and Krishna, actually that I learned from His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
Okay.
As you know, he is so wonderful in analysis. So in one of the lectures that I was listening to, he was mentioning about this how by being attached and detached from Maya and Krishna, how we become impersonalist, a devotee, sahajiya, and materialist. So I'm just passing on what I have learned from the senior devotees.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic to have the slides, Prabhuji. Like, just you have a look at that slide and then you know what Prabhuji was trying to explain. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, reflections, summary points? Yes, Mataji, Gita Jayanti Mataji, and then Surananda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So I like the point, the very first point that you made today was detachment from material things is by following the regulative principles, and attachment to Krishna is by chanting Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One thing I learned today is the sadhu. So I was thinking sadhu as before the previous acharyas, those sort of things. But I did not realize we can put Siksha Guru and the devotees around you also part of it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Guruji. But of course, the previous acharyas in the parampara, they are also sadhus. Uh, but from our perspective, like as I mentioned, Guruji, the sadhus are all our Shiksha Gurus.
Yeah.
So if we are actually learning from all the previous acharyas as well, then they are also sadhus that we are actually interacting with. Like if you are reading their books, if you are reading somehow or the other, listening to their teachings from someone, then those are also we are interacting with, and they are sadhus. But in general, we are actually associating with other sadhus which are around us. Sadhu doesn't mean that he has to actually have a long white beard and some jata on top, and then he has to be in Himalayas. That is our view of sadhu. But the sadhu is actually all the saintly devotees around us.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. Vidushi Mataji, Uma Mataji.
I really like the last point, Prabhuji. The Ananya Bhakti is the most important quality to develop that takes the Kshetrajna out of the Kshetra and creates attachment to Krishna in relationship.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Mataji. Any other last comments, points, reflections?
We should not keep the doubts in our heart. It should be clear. Otherwise, the doubts destroy our bhakti.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is true for like our relationships as well. So it is not only true for the scriptures, that if we have scriptural doubt, we should immediately ask. And in relationships as well, if we have some doubts, we should immediately get it clarified. Otherwise, the misunderstanding in relationships will keep growing. And this is universal truth. So that is where it is so important to actually any doubts that we have in our heart, in our mind, we should quickly get it clarified. Okay, I think we can pause here for today, and then we will continue from verse number 13 in the next session. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.